Western. My husband is still here working at HRC. So I've come in and out, in and out. Last place was the Pentagon and then back here. So this was a perfect place to call home and become engaged in the community as I have in different communities, both in the United States and outside of the United States for about 30 years. And then 2 years prior to that, I was a substitute teacher in Hampton, Virginia. I had third, fourth, and fifth grade. So I think I've just always been one of those individuals that says if I can do something at whatever level that is, then I would love to do it. And I love to, stay up with what's going on in the world of education and make myself more relevant. And so on page one, where it says a little bit about me, that's a little bit about me. My parents were military, as a lot of people would say around here. They've got some lineage to where there are multiple family members that have served in the armed services. So that's where I'm coming from and presenting myself to you today and talk about Lent Promises. Because as a military person, or anybody that's worked anywhere or been a homemaker, you make promises. You say you'll sacrifice one thing or the other in order to get that desired outcome, whether it's peace or prosperity or some stability or something in between there. So for me, when we talk about what do you want to do during this Lent season, and as you see a little bit of, I'm sorry, on page two, it talks about some of the organizations I'm in. And I realize, I have to sacrifice the engagement with available time. I mean, there's a list of organizations, probably one or two that aren't on there. I mean, I love being with Judge Shumate in Hardin County Teen Court. I've been with her 3 years, and out of the three, two I actually work for her. They pay me to have fun and to write up the diversion contracts for the offenders. I'm the coordinator for those individuals. So I make sure they are doing their due diligence, them and their parents, to make sure they serve out their sentences, so to speak. So whether it's community service, drug screening, family counseling, they're doing workbooks, or they're writing letters of apology to the person that was in the incident, or they're writing a letter to themselves 30 years later to say, looking back on what I did, how would I act now? How would I do that conflict resolution? So I get to do that, and I have an office actually in the Justice Center as well. I love being a United Way, the community investment team. I know where all our $800,000 went last year. And that's like chasing the money, and someone says, well, where did the money go? To Helping Hand and Hope, or what does Warm Blessings do, or any of the other 22 or 24 applicants that we had this last season. Also, as you see, I sit on the Fort Knox Spouses Club. I'm on the scholarship committee there. I run around with your Red Cross, our Red Cross. I love being on the DAT, the Disaster Action Team. Um, Getting ready to end my commandship, if you will, with the Disabled American Veterans chapter here, which I love. They think I'm the kid compared to the age range of most of my members. And then, of course, the North Hardin Lions Club. Some of you may be familiar with Heals Together, my sorority, which is 12, 13 years old now this January. And, of course, the Hardin County branch of NAACP. And there's a few more. There's Urban League. I'm in the Guild in Louisville, and then of course, Dress for Success chapter in Louisville, because I just happened to start there. We're trying to start one here. So I think that's everything a little bit about me as far as sacrificing and giving up and sustaining one thing on the other. It's just trying to balance. And I think Lent is like that too. You kind of balance what you have to give up or what you say you're going to not do for a specific time. So that's my lead in to my next slide about Lent Promises, slide 1 of 2. So when we talk about Lent Promises, as it says, we can think about what we give up for Lent. Usually we think about the simple things that we like. We always talk about we're going to give up the sweets, we're going to stop smoking for 2 weeks, no television, no music, none of those electronic devices. I'm just going to be one with my belief and just take one day at a time and reminisce about what's good in my life, what's stable in my life. And I can do without all of the other, what we think is a necessity. But I said, when you take the time and look at other things, when you're making your devotional, please consider outside of just your faith, which is the normal thing. Think about other things when we talk about community and social justice, which is two of the four pillars, which I know you know well. So when we talk about community, I said giving up complaining, which we all know is the hardest thing to do because we are the most vocal animals on the earth, it seems like, and we all have an opinion, right? But I said focus that complaining, focus it on engaging with people in a positive manner. For example, I just had a dear veteran of mine pass away. He was 99 years old. He would have been 100 on June 6th. And he had been one of those lovely members that I call my grandparents over at the Veteran Center. And he says, Terry, he says, I promise I'll stay alive until I become 100 years old. But after that, all bets are off. And I'm thinking, how neat of it for him to even have that kind of constitution. He was a double amputee below the knee. He was a signal individual. He was in World War II. And so, you think about, can I just give up complaining during Lent? Maybe I can even make it part of the way I am and not necessarily be complaining, which is different than having an opinion about something. But during this time of Lent, let's put that to the side and try to engage people only in a positive manner. And that may require you to walk away from some things and not get so engrossed in the conversation to get your last word heard. You want to have that last word, get your point across. Sometimes you just got to go, you're right. I hear you. I got you. And don't engage anymore unless it's going to lead to some positive thought and some positive action. The other thing would be for community is being present in the moment. And that means particularly when you're spending time with others. You would hear people say, oh, the time is short. God's got it. Won't he do it? And all those things. But you don't know that until you wake up again in the next present. You only have what you have that's in front of you. You could walk outside your door, walk outside in your yard. You're on your way to the store, you're running errands, but you only own that moment until the next action. And for every action, there's a reaction. So I said, take hold of those moments and think about spreading your time with spending and spreading really your time with others in a more positive manner than just running around and sort of checking the block and saying, look, I was there. Don't ask any more about me. I was there. Don't expect me to do any more. You're lucky that I was able to get here because I had 10 other things going on and you were number 11, but I made you important. Don't make people feel like you're spending your moment in haste. You want to give them that time. And for young people, that may be a little bit harder when they're with their older fans. We tend to ramble on sometimes. We're passionate about what we talk about. And the young folks going, oh, God, they're going to talk about this. Oh, God, why can't I find my earbuds? Oh, shoot. They're on their last, leg of talking about something what they consider is back in the day. So I said, spend time, make that time worth it, and really be authentic with it when you're spending it with others, and give up all of the anxiousness and the hesitation to even go into it because you may get stuck in. You might feel like you get stuck into something, but value that person or that situation that you're in. And sometimes it may not be positive, but think about you only have that moment. Put everything else aside and just be in that moment. And then the next thing, there you go. We're talking about social justice, which is one of my I guess you want to say almost my favorite things next to youth development and justice for women is becoming more educated when we're talking about social justice, becoming more educated in particular issues as you give up things during Lent or put things to the side and you make yourself aware. Think about social justice in reference to the human trafficking, immigration, you know, food deserts and things like that, because the list can be endless and you can wear yourself out thinking that you're going to be able to save everyone, or you go, ooh, that's overwhelming. I'll just pick the thing that makes me okay, or I'll do my tithing and let the system work that out. Or some people, so I pay taxes for social services and resources for those people who need them. I've done my part. And so you really don't think about that during Lent. I said, give up room in your head and think about these kind of things, such as trafficking and immigration. You don't see much of it here. Most people will have an idea what they think human trafficking looks like or what a food desert looks like. And of course, here where we live, you don't even think about a food desert because you're going, I can go to Kroger's, I can go to Walmart, I can go to Aldi. You know, you got your choices of places to go to get your ingredients to make that soup that you're eating this evening. But someone who's in a part of the city that the nearest store is 10 miles away and they have no transportation other than to rely on public transportation, that means they're on a time clock to get to somewhere and to get back, then they may not be able to get there. So the small mom and pop stores that are near to them really can be predatory, or the list of items may not be on the high nutrition value kind of thing. So they get what they get and take that and move on. For human trafficking, I get to see that when I'm in Louisville at Free to Hope. And you'd be amazed at the people who have come through here that look like you and me. They don't look like how the movie portrays them, but they're definitely here. And of course, all of us has probably heard about immigration and border control and that kind of thing. But we have a few people who are employed here who are not documented immigrants. And you probably had passed them more than once on Dixie Highway and had no idea that they were doing what they were doing and they're getting their pay, you know, under the table, as you will, getting paid in cash, and you know they're existing on the edges, but they look just like you and me. And I can point those people out because I spend a lot of time with the programs that are there to support them. So again, put something to the side that you always think about that makes you comfortable, great memories, and makes you smile, and educate yourself on particular issues like that for social justice. Also, as it says, participating in an alternative school break or family trip. I know some places people will do their ministries and they'll go somewhere else for a holiday versus going to a great place for a holiday. You go somewhere and serve, whether you're digging the well, helping to build a school, helping to build a library, helping. And I know you've got a well supporter right there in your family who goes to, I believe, Guam every year. I could be wrong. But you can think about the needs, and not just out of the country, but inside the country. Sometimes just down your block, you can create an alternative break for spring break, Christmas, and that kind of thing, and do something for someone else. Give up that kind of comfortableness and go somewhere to be slightly uncomfortable to help someone else's life. Then, of course, you've got donate one item for every day of Lent, which is 40 days. I mean, you can donate one thing or collect it all the way through Lent and then donate it to one of the social services or nonprofit organizations that we're all familiar with. Again, whether it's Helping Hand of Hope, Warm Blessings, Mission Hope for Kids, Big Brothers, Big Sisters of America, CASA, Sunrise, you got Silver Leaf, you got a whole bunch of places that probably can use anything that you put aside, starting at the beginning of Lent and ending at Lent, and hopefully after Lent is done. And of course, doing your responsibility to tithe your own portions of whatever your stipend is, and that could be your income, or as I say, your side money, whatever you need. So I says these are just a few things that you can take on for Lent and maybe practice after, but how and whatever you practice, you should decide to bring yourself closer to God and remind yourself of the sacrifices that Jesus has made for all of us, because the sacrifice doesn't end. So he did it then, but look at all of the souls that constantly have to be propped up, set up, recharged, reinvigorated, and sometimes resaved over and over and over again until they get it right. So Lent is almost a constitution that you should live every day if you can. And when you sacrifice for the good of something and not just say, look, I gave up those cookies for 10 days and now I'm going to be glutton for the next 10 days. I'm going to go back to those French fries. I'm going to go back and watch, binge watch every show that I didn't watch during Lent. You really want it to be part of your constitution. And that way you can rest easy with it. You can sleep easy with it. And you can commit to it easily than feeling like it's a sacrifice. Now it just becomes part of the way that you walk around and live and breathe and do good for yourself, your families, your church, and your society. So I can leave you with anything. Give up something to give something, but don't always expect something when you give up something. So do what you can. Don't over sacrifice yourself, but do what you can. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'm willing to discuss anything, but that's my contribution. And oh, here's my last thing I forgot, where it says, during Lent, let us find concrete ways to overcome our difference. And that's a big thing about sacrifice. A lot of people don't want to overcome differences. They figure if they do, they have to give up something in order to find a common bond or a foundation. And that's not necessarily so. You really want to come to some common denominator and see people for who they are and not judge them for who they are. And once you can overcome those differences, and differences are subjective, it depends on what you see as a difference. It may not be a difference for someone else, it just can be a normalcy for some folks. But once you expose yourself to different things, you will find that what you consider is a concrete way to see something may not be, but it can be concrete if you do not accept it as a difference that you can get over. And being in the military, and I know there's some military individuals sitting on this program, when we raise our hand and do our oath of office, we literally say, we will find concrete ways to overcome our differences as we support and defend the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. We don't even get to question it. And as we turn our lives over to our, what we call battle buddies, we don't pick and choose or screen them, and say, well, I don't know if I should follow Sergeant so-and-so. Oh, that commander is not the one that I want to protect today. We go all in, and we do have to put our differences aside and our diversities aside. And when things go warm, as you say, or things go hot, we're in it to protect the people that are there with us to protect our nation. We don't separate and say, not today, Jesus. I'm not going with this guy right here. You may say it in your mind, but in your heart and your soul and the execution of what you put your right hand up for your oath of office to protect our nation. We say this all the time. We find concrete ways to overcome our differences as soldiers and supporters of veterans. Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. And I've got somebody might have been going, but I'll just go ahead. Okay. I was so impressed when you were running for office that you, and again, having not met you in real life, but following you on Facebook, you would go and visit people, knock on doors, in a safe way with a mask and all. But I appreciated how you would post, pictures and stories about people that you had met in the community while you were on the campaign trail, and that you would share, what mattered to them and so on and so forth. And there were a couple of different things. I mean, that in itself was impressive. But then on top of that, you would go sometimes to people who lived on the margins. I remember there was one family, living in a tent in the woods. And, you would lift up their lives and the dignity that they had in caring for themselves. And then you would also include a lot of people who didn't agree with you on, I would say, are like very basic kind of issues, including, I'll never forget when I think there was was it a Klan rally or was it just like Trump supporters?
It was Trump. I actually went to a Trump rally after going through the neighborhood and putting up things for Bashir when he was running, because we had an area to cover, right? And so I'd already registered for the event. And I said, well, I got on my red, white, and blue sweater. I don't really care the party. I've been in both parties. I said, you have to look at the people in the administration, really. And so I headed on out to Lexington, and there was about a 3 or 4 mile cordon off around the Rupp Arena, which is where the event was. And I tell you, once I parked, it's amazing how when people are really in it and that's who they want to support, they will really let you know. And it was no different for me than when I'm in Louisville and I'm down with the protesters, not necessarily protesting. And I tried to make that clear to individuals. I wanted people to see what was going on the other side of 65, because a lot of people say, "Oh, that doesn't happen here." Or I had people, clutching their pearls, going, "Terry, are you okay? Are you okay? Come on from down there. Come on from down there." And I said, it happens here. You just don't see it that way, and it's not reactive that way. And so there, when you're in metropolitan cities like that, people are explosive. People are expressive, and so I would try to get out in front of the crowd so you can see it. But I would also tell you, I said, "You see that street back there? That's my exit, and I'm going that way." But I felt, as the young folks would say, some type of way when I was dealing with the National Guard. And there was a lot of young soldiers down there, and they were scared. They were put in designated places around the city, and they might not have really understood why they were there. They just knew they had their oath of office to protect and serve, and they were hoping nothing happened. I saw what rubber bullets look like. I saw how the antagonizers were there. Same thing when I was in Brandenburg. Same kind of thing. I've got a few calls that will tell me, "Don't come down here. We know you're, don't come down here." And that's just like telling me, like a kid, what do? You come down there. And so when I was in Brandenburg, and I got a few phone calls that says, "Don't come down here." And I went down there. One of the teachers called me, and I didn't know her, but she called me. She says, "I know you're coming down here." And she said, "If we get separated, I want you to take this street, along the lane." And I was like, I got my exit plan. I really, really do. So I try to meet people, where they are. I said, when I was campaigning, there was nothing that I was doing during my campaign that I don't do now, as you can see. I mean, I was kind of raised that way. I'm coming from food stamps and Section 8 when my parents divorced. And so I wanted to be one of those people that I went to at the free clinic and that kind of thing in my church, which I still go to when I go home, to be one of those people that has a resolution that can help versus going, "If you just pull your pants up, life would be great. If you pray 5 times a day, life would be great. If you get some education, life would be great." And it's not just that simple. And so, yeah, when I was doing my campaign, I call it Campaign Chronicles. So when I got chased by a dog, which happened a lot, so I took, stuff with me to throw out there to keep them going. Or when I was picking up eggs out of a chicken coop. And I still visit people. Just about everybody I met, I told them, I said, "Now you are a relative. So I have to come back to see you." So last thing, I met this young man of 88 off of Logston, and his birthday was coming up. And I said, "I'm going to sneak back in. Don't be surprised. You're going to find some, balloons on your porch." I tried to actually sneak back to his house. And where was he? He was on his walker on the other side of the street walking. I'm like, that's not how it's supposed to work. I'm supposed to sneak into your front yard. I told your daughter, Donna, I was going to do that. Here you are walking around the neighborhood. It doesn't work that way. I said, "You messed up the plan, man. You messed up the plan." So I do. I go back and visit people still. Some people I went back and left thank you cards on because they didn't have to vote, period. You don't care who they voted for. They didn't have to vote. And so here's kind of a Lent thing, to give up my time to go back to see them and make sure they're okay. And I left thank you notes, on doors. I didn't even knock. I just sort of wedged it in the door. It's like, okay, I came to see so-and-so. I know she's in here. And I still do that. I said, I have to earn my keep, which is why I'm not taking the salary. The salary goes back to North Hardin and John Hardin High School and some of the things I've probably bought now for veterans. And then I'll put in the newspaper where your money went. So it's a constitution. It really is. And I feel like so long as you can see me and you see me thanking the people that put the pieces together, whether they're donating things or highlighting small businesses, you see me doing my small business shout outs, because without small businesses, our revenue would definitely suffer. So yes, that was me. I'm still there. Still there.
Yeah, the one I remembered was the Brandenburg rally when they're rallying for this Confederate statue.
For the statue, right.
And here you are, a Black woman showing up unafraid. I mean, I'm like, you are an inspiration. I don't know how I don't know how you do it, but there you were. And I think that's kind of the witness a lot of us need in these times, is how do we overcome these differences that feel insurmountable?
Right. it was okay. I mean, I felt the tension, but because I wasn't down there, you know, to antagonize, I mean, I saw the Brandenburg police and they had things cordoned off, and I was interested. I said, how are they going to get this statue? I mean, I'm sure you've seen it at Buttermilk Falls. That's a huge, it's not just on a pedestal. I mean, it is on a huge pedestal, and then it has things around it. I said, who in their right mind would think that this statue, which wasn't always there, was actually the University of Louisville before they moved it there. I said, but who, unless they've got some serious equipment, is going to try to do this? And so again, I wanted Hardin and Meade County, because there were some Hardin and Meade County students down there. I said, I wanted people to understand, instead of worrying about getting bits and pieces produced from the news, because I know quite a few of the news affiliates, now that we see each other all the time, live isn't always live. Live can be live but produced afterwards. And so I wanted to go down there to see the people and to see what the aggression was. But I kid you not, I think the night before, all of the mayors were called to let them know that a large amount of ammunition was being bought at Walmart, all of Walmart's here. And of course, I got that call. This is even before I became a councilwoman, but I know quite a few people. So I got that phone call. I was like, Terry, they're loading up. They're loading up out in Brandenburg. They really were loading up, and they were ready for anything. All the motorcycle gangs were there, and all the other folks started to skirmish. And I was there for about 4, maybe 5 hours. And as it got dark, I said, okay, it's time for me to exit. But I knew people that were still down there, but nothing happened. And so I think it kind of fizzled out. Some people were probably disappointed that nothing happened. I was concerned about the people that were there, the policemen that were there, the tourists that were down there. And I said, I hope nothing happens. I know hope is not a course of action for a lot of people, but I was hoping that nothing happened. But you saw it. I wanted you to see it. So, and I didn't take one side or the other. I just wanted you to see what is going on in our sister city down the street, around the corner.
Well, I've asked a couple questions. Open it up to anybody else.
Hi, my name is Cynthia Miskey, and I know that when Joy invited you, she sent you a letter talking about the fact that we are working on becoming a Matthew 25 church, and that we want to live into what we are called to do by Jesus in the Matthew 25. So today, in our morning Bible study, we're studying Lament for the 6 weeks of Lent. And the one today was community lament, how we lament as a community for the things that are not going well. And the members of the class got to talking about, well, with you coming tonight, maybe you could talk a little bit or inspire us, which we have already done, but still, we want to open ourselves to a conversation about structural racism and how it is a lament of the community because it is harmful for all sides. And so I'm bringing that to our conversation tonight. What is some insight on how do we even go about setting up a roundtable conversation so that we can begin to reach out and find ways of building our community together?
I thank you. That's a good question. I think if you ask them first, what do they think structural racism is? Because first you have to figure out where they are. And that's sometimes just due to exposure, what they've seen, what they've heard. Most of the kids are up on, every social media platform that we don't even know about, and then how they discuss it with their friends. But first you say, well, what is structural racism? Some will give you the classic answer and say anybody of color that's been oppressed from the day back to, before Jesus was born. And some will say if they've been discriminated against for any opportunity. First, you want to hear where your audience is, and then you can zoom in on one or two things, and you can tell them what Webster's says. structural racism is. And then for a lot of people now, they'll probably don't see it as much as they think they see it, or they may not even know what's going on. They're going, well, people have choices, Nana, or people can go where they need to go. They can come in the store just like I can, and they can go to school just like I can, and they can buy the latest, gee whiz kind of thing, and serve and worship where they want to. I don't know what structural racism is, because for them, they're probably right. They haven't had to worry about it. But I guarantee you, if you ask them, do they know anyone that has had an issue, and I mean a true issue, not something they've caused on themselves, they will probably tell you, I don't know. Which means if they don't know, like anything, if you don't know what you don't know what you're missing, and you don't know what the impact is. But when you talk about structural, something that's set almost in stone, that will make failure happen without it happening on its own. And you can turn that back to religion, and you can talk about the disciples and the one that, Jesus already knew was going to fail him. So imagine taking that same sort of discipleship and say, instead of them being people, see those as being policies. And those individual policies were set to make that hamlet better. But it's always one that doesn't work for you, it works against you. And then it sets up a system. It goes about setting up a system to make sure that you will never be on an equal plane. You might be close to it, but you'll never be equal. And so that's what structural racism is, because it's specifically set against a specific group of people, whether it's males, female, Black, white, Puerto Rican, lesbian, from the United States.
I think, Terry, can you hear us? I think she got frozen. Whenever this happens, I have to look.
Where they are.
There she is. Terry, you got frozen for just a minute there at the end.
Oh. Am I good now?
You're here, yeah.
Now.
So you could take it that way to where it's not so heavy, because trust me, kids just go, oh, they'll do this. Oh, not that talk. Or they go, we know that already. I get along with everybody. Or you hear the classic, but I have Black friends. I have Jewish friends. I have Hispanic friends. I and Bob get along, because they're in their circle until it gets tested. And when it gets tested, sometimes it's not tested at the right time. And they go, ooh, he wasn't here for me, or ooh, they left me hanging, ooh, or they didn't search them, but they searched me, or they didn't follow them in the store, they followed me. And so you don't want that to be the example time. You want them to have a little bit of sensitivity, not sympathy, because that's not what people are asking for. They just want you to understand that there is a structure that still exists. I know people like to explain it away and say, if you do good, good things will happen to you. Not necessarily. So you can make it light and you can have them exchange, but again, get them to exchange and tell you what they think structural racism is.
Could we set up a round table or something like that, where people could come in and we could actually dialogue about this in the community?
Yes. Matter of fact, that's probably the better way to go, so you can have exchange versus someone just pushing and presenting something out, because you'll lose people because they hear it all the time. And depending on how they process information, some would say, again, I got it. I'm a fair person. I treat everybody fair. I do my part. I hold the door. I don't prejudge. I don't treat one different from the other. And we all have natural biasness, so that's different. But when you got a system that's determined to keep a specific group of people in a place or in slow progression purposely, then that is not what you want them to see as acceptable, because they'll think about it, but they may not say it because of the way their parents are raised or their grandparents are raised, and they don't want to upset you thinking that they're thinking anything outside of the ideology that happens in their household. But a nice round table so people can look across and to the side and be able to talk to one another and not feel like it's the same old thing.
Right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And I'd love to come to one of those. If you want me to come, I can look like a kid and show up and sit in the back. I don't know. But
Well, these are all grown-ups, but
Okay.
and we're just really we're
Getting
really
started.
wanting to move in a more positive direction. And this particular study has opened up some very interesting conversation, and we're taking a harder look at how we choose to live. And
Okay.
we want to be, well, for lack of a better phrase, we want to be better about it, I guess. is the way to
Okay.
say it.
Okay, I got you.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Questions, comments? You could probably ask Terry about anything she's involved in since we've got her here.
Trust me, I'm not squeamish. I've been shot at twice. I've seen dead bodies. Like I said, I've been around kids. I've broken up some fights. I don't know. I've been in the National Capital Region. I've been a military assistant for Dan Quayle when he was after his vice presidency. I know a few Capitol Police. Luckily, none of them got hurt. You know, I can eat potty meat. I can eat caviar. I can go in any circle. I'm pretty comfortable wherever I am because I've been in so many places, and I tell people, government wise, military wise, I said to my husband a lot, I said, don't put anything past my US government. We are professionals. We can be criminals, but we are professional, but we do what we do so you don't have to worry about doing it. So, and I grew up in a man's world. I mean, I'm a grunt for life. I started out in divisions before I came into Walter Reed and the Pentagon and recruiting. And so, and I'm a human resource manager and an operations officer. So, and I started enlisted. So I'm pretty open. Not a whole lot.
Terry, were you recently appointed to a special board in Frankfurt?
Yes, ma'am, I am. I just got my official letter yesterday from the governor's office. So I have been appointed to the Women's Commission, which started in the early 60s. And then it made its way all the way up until around 2018, and it got defunded. And now it's back with the governor. So he's putting his board together. And I think it's almost like Lent, you know, it's specifically focused on women's issues. And that includes social justice and community efforts like healthcare, food deserts, employment, those kind of things where most households are headed by women, right? And so if that piece of the family cannot make it through some structural obstacles, that family is not going to thrive well, at least not as well as we think it is. And then you multiply that times 10, times 20, times 30, times 40, times 50. Now you've got a community that's not well served. The people in it are not healthy. They're going to make decisions that may raise your eyebrows, but it may be the only options that they have. And so this commission can go about doing studies and making sure that there are strong policies to help the women of Kentucky to do better versus hoping that they'll do better. And then maybe the society around here will get a little bit better if we can look at the things, the obstacles that keep them where they are. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm just waiting for our schedule. Now I look forward to working with the governor and the lieutenant governor and see who else is on the commission. But yes, I just got my letter yesterday.
That's very exciting. We've got a question from the chat, which was a good one. Paula asks, how do you juggle all your activities and organizations? I would add to that too.
You know, without the phone and the scheduling of things, like my husband will say, which matter of fact, we're getting ready to celebrate 35 years, 35, 36 years in April. And he'll say, babe, what do you have today? And I'll pick up my phone like this and I go, let me see. But if it wasn't for him and a few friends of mine that kind of keep me on task, often I have driven into my garage and not turned the car off. and I would call my husband ahead of time, and I said, you know, those black pants that are hanging up. Or I come and say, I gotta use the bathroom, but I gotta run back out. And so my biggest fear, but which really keeps me going, it's a fear, but it keeps me going, is to let people see women and women of color specifically, to let you know that we're just as committed as anyone else to the community. So I know some of you are at work, some of you got grandchildren, some of you have other things. I like to represent you, and I go, I wonder if Swope knows about this. Let me go to this worm eating contest. But really, I'm thinking about the Department of Agriculture, because that's where SNAP falls in, anything that has to do with nutrition programs and subsidies. So yes, I will go visit my farmers, and I'll try to get out there. And so on my Facebook, where I'll say part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, and part 5, they might not have been in the city at the same time. You know, I've gone to those, and then I tell you about it. I put links on it. I said, if you want to know more about it, go to this, because most likely so much other things are going on in people's lives that they really don't have time to look at it. So I see myself as your advocate and your representative to go out and find out what's going on in the world and how does it affect us. And when I get sleepy, when I do, and I'm nocturnal, so I stay up very late at night. The day before yesterday, I went to bed at 5:30. So I did like a 28-hour period, just straight. Bad habit.
I think there's some people that can survive on little sleep, and you must be one of those people. I think a lot of politicians must be that way because they're all very busy. I wonder, what would you say are the top, I don't know, 3 or 5 like most pressing like social justice issues that we're facing here in Hardin County right now?
Quality of public education. When I talk with Teresa Morrison, we don't have a food desert, but we have over 65% of the kids on free and reduced lunch, which is what I was on in 9th through the 12th grade. We're also a little concerned about their vision health, which allows me to see that through the Lions Club, because we do all of the examinations in the schools. But we have, you know, students who are really suffering with that. But because maybe the parents don't have the insurance, or the students don't even say anything to the teachers, and now we have hybrid and NTI, you won't know it, but that affects their learning, because some people may do well visually than they do audio. Some may do both or tactical. They got to be hands-on. So if your vision is a little skewed, again, some kids will just sort of blow it off, or they're thinking, oh, I just sit closer, you know, or I'll get more sleep, or I'll wear my shades, or turn the lights down. And so that's one of my things. Also, you would think about just the overall security of students. I mean, the new program that was created about 2 years ago for displaced and homeless students, right? That was created because the youth services and the family resource coordinators, or the FRISs, their title money from the federal government cannot cover the things that happen to students by way of the decisions and the actions that are made from their parents or their grandparents or their legal guardians. So if their parents, grandparents, or legal guardians become challenged with housing, transportation, food, and so just basic needs, then that affects the children, right? And so that program tries to catch them before they fall. But we have about 67 or 68 families that are living on the fringes that people don't even know about, but people will quickly judge them. And I said, some of them are employed, but one just lost their job, or one was taking care of the parent, and now the parents died but left debt. And they're trying to figure out how to do all of that. And by the way, the kids are trying to go to school and no one knows it because they're not going to tell you that. So keeping up with that program, Lynette Kennedy is in that program, just keeping up with it. And Mr. Swope has helped. He's back there being quiet. He's helped. But it takes more than finances, because it's some systemic things that keep them in that kind of that melee of what's going on. So that's probably my 4. And then my 5th one will be just veterans quality, their quality of life, their movement, their benefits, their disability. There are a lot of things that our veterans here are not used to fighting for electronically. You know, we talk about e-business. They're not getting on the computer and double checking the status of things. You know, they're old school. They're going to get in the car if they can. A lot of them can't, and head on up to Zorn Avenue. And I understand that, you know, they're missing some paperwork, or someone needs a ramp built, or someone needs something, you know, in their home. And so I get to do a lot of that as the commander of the Disabled American Vet Chapter 156. I mean, we just paid for someone who had a water main break in their front yard. So those are things that I get to do and focus on. So I really don't see myself as a politician, but I understand the business of politics, because you can't come into this business and thinking, I'm not going to be like any of those folks. I'm going to be, you know, the savior of all. I'm going to stay myself. You can stay yourself, but you do have to understand the business. You do have to understand how the rules are made at the city level, which is municipal, which are ordinances. And then when you get to the county and the state and the federal, those are laws. And so if you don't understand how they kind of interconnect and who they affect directly and indirectly, you will not be an effective politician or anything else. You'll just be someone kind of bumming around trying to stay popular. And yes, we know popularity overtakes a lot of things. It's like a shiny thing. But you want your officials to be relevant and proficient, on top of being educated and compassionate. And that's it.
Lauren, are you still there?
I can hear you.
I am Tom Arney. This has nothing to do with the programs tonight. I worked in the health benefits office at the hospital. I retired 1 year to the day before you did.
We're just babies.
Yeah, I knew your picture when it came up on our program was very familiar, but I know why you get around so well. You did that when you were in the military. It's the roller skate thing.
It is. It really is. I tell people, you know, with my enlisted time and officer time, I chalk that success or failure up to how my family did when we moved around. So when Courtney could find her friends and her footing, and Raymond could be okay and find his big little rascals, as I call them, then I'm okay. I can take the uncomfortability and the unknown with a new assignment. Or I did the driving, like when we were at Fort Meade, Maryland, and I was at Walter Reed. That was a you know, a hard drive going back and forth, especially when I had, you know, PT or, you know, training in the morning at dark 30, driving down 295 at dark 30 in the morning at like 5:30. You know, you subject to have a deer run out on you, and you do that 3 days a week and then continue on and go to work. Or because my daughter was going to Overton Christian Academy on the back end of Fort Meade, Maryland, and I wanted to do my mom thing, my husband would do it for me. And then a couple of times I would say, oh, I can pick her up at 3:30. Mind you, I'm at Walter Reed in DC. And I'm going, oh, I'm going to pick her up. He says, no, I'll pick her up and drop her off at, you know, the aftercare. And then he would go on to work. I was like, oh, no, I can do it. You should see me tearing down 495. 395, 295, get off the Lowell exit, pick her up. She'd be the last kid standing in line. Oh, actually, no line. Standing in line for me to pick her up, and I turn around and go right back to Washington, D.C., and I would have her with me. And that's how she met Senator Dole one evening when I had him coming over to Walter Reed. And I was just thinking, please don't let her say anything about why his other arm doesn't work. You know how children are. And I didn't want her to stare, but you know, he was coming in for his checkup, but I had gone to Maryland, turned around and come back, had her with me. And then I tried to get home and make it look like I had been home before my husband got home. Like I had been there. You know, turn the lights on, you know, turn the oven on. All he had to do was touch the hood of the car and realize I had just got there a few minutes ago. So I did a lot of that just to say, you know, we women can do it too, sometimes at the sake of ourselves. But I said we can we can do that. So yes, it was a great roller skate. Yeah, it really was.
Well, this is also unrelated to the topic, but you have a catering business as well.
Yes.
And I think you recently shared about a cakes that you had made, and I thought, oh, I need to know how to order cake.
You know, that started, my husband started out when we got married. He was at the Newport News shipyard and the Howmat Aviation that worked on the shuttles, right? And so when we moved on out, took the first assignment to Germany, he became a butcher. So he was German trained there. So he can cut up the cow and do all that. I mean, he's coming from that background anyway, from his grandfather having a few farm animals. So along the way, he learned how to cook. And the more he cooked, the less I cooked. I went to, did my training and went to gunnery exercises. And he just became the man, and after, I think I cooked like the first 6 years or something. And so when we got here, he continued to make things, and people said, "Oh, can you smoke me a brisket? Can you do this?" And I said, that's going to be time consuming. And he's buying things that he's not, charging people for. It's just part of putting the meal together. So I helped them turn it into an LLC, did the business license and all of that. Our garage looks like a restaurant. And I just wanted to, give people the service, which is why we call it tabletop cuisine. We don't have a standard menu. We make what you want, and I guide you through it because you're going to be dealing with me in order to put it together and do the invoice. And we have our chef coats and all these things. And I said, we can do meat and potatoes all day long, but we can also do quail and lamb. And, we've got a bunny rabbit in the freezer as I speak. And so it's one of those things, but he found his German recipe that we had gotten probably 1993, 1994. And he started making his apple pecan cakes. I think he's going to try to kind of make some blueberry ones next month. So I had posted them, and then folks said, "Oh, we need them." So I would run around. I think they were $10, and I would run around. He did the same thing for pies, apple pies he made for the Veterans Center. We had like 7 pies lined up, to take over there. But we love doing small, medium, and large. And most we've done is for 150 people. And we bring in other 2 people when we do it, but we've got a guy that does pigs for us. If anybody wanted a, pig on the pit, as they say. But we pretty much can do, lobster Rockefeller to pork chops. We just make it up for you, and we build it by the plate, and that's how you get your price times X amount of people. So that's how we do it. But right now we've been delivering, of course, and not laying out the whole tabletop, because we do that and we become part of your party. And but now we pull out, we do everything, and then we take it and we deliver. And I try to, when I ask people about pictures, again, it's kind of like you seeing who we deliver stuff to, and it's not just drop off and go, "Thank you, love you, bye-bye, give me the check." I said, now you can see who we work with, and if you know them, you can ask them, "Well, how was it?" And they'll tell you. We love to take criticism, but they'll tell you. So we actually have something coming up next week at the State Theater in E-Town. So we're coming into our 4th year, 4th year May.
Yeah, anytime I see pictures of cake online, they've got my attention.
But it's German. It's not overly sweet. I do have a bourbon glaze that goes with it, but it's one of those things that's great with buttercream or vanilla ice cream. I like it warm. He does, and he eats it right off the counter. But it's a comfort food.
We all need that right now.
Calories. It's calories.
Well, we're at 7:03, and I don't want to keep you, but did anybody else have any questions, comments? Thank you, Terry, so much for being with us and for sharing with us. I think we're really lucky to have you in this community and working and advocating, and I'm sure our paths will cross again soon.
Oh, yeah.
We have Lynette coming. Which week, Joy? Next week? I can't remember. But Is it
Yes, Lynette's next Wednesday. So that was a great segue when you mentioned that as your fourth
Yep.
issue. But yeah, we're excited to hear from her.
Yes, we do really well together. We're almost like a little Batman and Robin crew. She will say, Tara, I need a microwave. And I'll go, okay, where do you need it and who needs it? And she goes, I need size 7, size 14 pair of pants. Do you have any linen? Oh, by the way, do you have the bed to go with the linen? That's how we got someone at the hotel and we got 3 more days to pay for. That's what we do. I don't always talk about it on the net, but because some things are just don't need to be. But with me and her, she will send out, sometimes she'll do a blast to her people that she can kind of get things from, or she'll hit me up and she'll say, Terry, I need this. Can you do this? And most likely with other resources, we get it done. And so even though she has that position, it's so unwritten. It's more like a little social services kind of thing where she has to rely on people to help shore her up. So I'm one of her people. We call ourselves Little Girl Tribe, but I understand, and she doesn't have to ask, but one time pretty much can get it done.
Yeah, so everyone join us next week at the same time for talk with Lynette Kennedy, who's the, I forget the exact title, but the homeless coordinator for Hardin County Schools. And we got connected with her through some of those blast emails, I think in the fall. And so that's how we've learned a little bit about these issues that our students are facing. And through some of our involvement with Warm Blessings, I think we've learned about the issue of the lack of affordable housing in the area. And I don't know if that's like a widespread issue, but that's something that
It is. We're going to, with the city council, we've been looking at tiny houses. We have a project coming up. I know I'm supposed to go to Louisville to look at the one that they have. They're doing the shipment containers, but they're putting like a front porch and something else on the front. And of course they're making them livable, but it's supposed to be 27 of them. And it's called, I think it's Restoration Camp on a 5-acre lot. St. Louis has something for veterans only, and I believe Ohio is doing it. So we are looking at it. We had it in our past meeting about the rules for having a tiny home, about securing it like you do for a trailer. But of course, we have to look at where we would put it and how many residents we would have it and how to pre-screen those residents so they're sustained. You don't want to put them in there and then a month later, the place is gone kaput and it's got 20 cats out on the front porch. And so that's one of the things that we're looking at, because affordable housing, sometimes affordable has a different connotation. And I know some of the best landlords, the worst landlords here. Some of them do not like me because I get after them about mold. When I get pictures about mold in places where it shouldn't be, or the landlord says, I'm not going to do any more than I need to do, but the person still has to pay rent, so they fear being evicted and all of these things. And so I'm that other advocate, and I would tell them, I have a pretty good following on Facebook. And I like sharing. I really do. Photos. You really don't want me to share this photo of this kitchen right now, or under the kitchen sink, or above the closet, or where's another place? Closet, the kitchen, under the kitchen sink, the bathroom, behind the bathroom door. And then in the summer they would say, oh, well, we've got this dehumidifier. I said, if it's not greater than 60%, no matter what they do, and they can wipe down with half bleach, half water every 7 days, I said, those spores are going to be right back there. That means there is a leak somewhere. There's a moisture thing somewhere, and you've got to figure that out. And they don't all want to do that. Some of them can't afford to do it. but they still expect that person to pay them rent. And some of them are our, they're our grandparents' age. And so when I get those kind of calls or photos and say, look at this, I'm on it. I am really on it, and they don't like it. But that could be my parents, so I take that seriously. So Lynette does too, which is why we're like Batman and Robin. We do work that way.
All right. Anybody willing to close us in prayer? They're all looking at me like, that's your job.
I know. And it's like, what?
All right. Well, let's pray. God of love and life and community, what a blessing and a joy to hear from Terry, to be together and to think about how we can serve you. Thank you for Terry, for all that she does, and for the advocate that she is for anyone in our community. Be with us as a church as we continue to discern how to care for one another and to be a Matthew 25 congregation. Be with all of us throughout this difficult time of the pandemic. Give us courage and strength for the days ahead. Help us to care for one another and to feel your love holding all of us close. Be with us this night and send us out to do your work in the world however we can. Thank you, God, and thank you for the love that we know in Jesus. And we pray in his name. Amen. Thanks, Terry, and thank you all for being here.
This was really good.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Sure. Really good. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. We really appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Call me anytime. You know where to reach me.
We've gotten involved in some things where we don't always know what the best thing is to do, and you may be a good person for us to consult with.
And maybe so. I mean, all of the sources, sometimes things don't happen because people don't know where to go. And that was something that Judge Shoemate was saying the other night. And I mean, everything from foster care to, the plants have blown over to the dog being tied up too long. I probably know, as they say on the commercial, I know a guy. So if I can help in some way or the other, I will definitely be the person, even if it's just an intermediary and you just want me to, to find out and get back with you. That is just as important as getting the job done initially. So call me. You got my email, my cell. I'm nocturnal, so I'm probably going to be up anyway. So don't go, I'll wait until 8 o'clock in the morning. No, if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. If it's Sunday, it's Sunday. Help has no timeline. Not at all. Not at all.